don't exist.
Doesn't exist. I don't really use those type of arguments. Do you want to compare the strength of the hypothesis?
Um, I
You know
guess
what
in
I mean?
terms of what, like the
In terms
explanatory.
of, I guess we could go explanatory power, predictability, things like that. Justification. What about justification in the belief? Things like that. Yeah, we could do it by that.
Okay, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay. So why would you say that the atheist hypothesis is stronger?
Yeah, because it doesn't invoke any entities past observation, and any entities past observation is just speculation and assumptions, right? Which just
Any
would have
entity
been
has
with other
observation. Are you saying your observation or the world's observation?
the world's observation.
Well, we have people who claim to see God. So how do we?
Yeah, I mean, even with those, right? People see contradictory gods, right? So, like, if one visions to see Allah and one visions to see Jesus, and then they both perform miracles. Well,
But the point.
obviously, these two things. Hold on, wait. These two
Okay.
things can't be true at the same time because, right? Christians think Jesus
Wait.
is
Can you
God.
stop? Wait. Stop going on to different points. The whole
What?
idea
This
that I was trying to
literally
propose
the same.
there.
What are you
No,
talking
I'm
about?
just saying you're going on to something else. But the whole point that I
No,
was trying to
I'm
propose.
not. I'm
Can you?
justifying
Can
my
you?
point. I'm providing
I'm saying. I'm saying. Can you? I'm saying. Can I put a pin in it right there? I'm saying stop right there. I'm going to give a thought, and then you can just finish. Because I
Okay.
think you might have misunderstood where I was going with the argument. I'm saying I don't grant the claims that people haven't seen God. I think that's ridiculous. Obviously, I'm a theist. I believe in certain encounters with God. So unless you can prove to me that in all cases we have never seen God, I don't think you're justified in updating your degree of certainty about your view than I am, because we have multiple accounts of people who have referenced and said they've seen Jesus Christ, all these different, biblical events
Mhm.
happening, and that is predicted under
So,
my hypothesis. So you can see how I can update my degree of certainty about that.
well,
It seems I
no,
have a strong hypothesis. Okay,
well,
well,
no, because
go ahead.
that's what I was touching up on earlier, right? So, as I was saying,
Oh, you
and
said it
why?
was contradictory.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's why
Yeah,
what I was
well, we can
explaining.
talk about that. Why do you believe that
Yeah, because
God's
I'm
existence is
explaining why.
contradictory?
No,
Okay.
no, 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 no. That's what I'm saying. You have to slow down, right, and track what I'm saying. What I'm saying was contradictory is the fact is that the biblical Jesus, right, and like the Muslim or Islamic Allah, right? They can't be true at the same time in a sense of like, I guess, like they both can't be God because Jesus claims to be the only way to salvation, right? And not only that, Muslims believe Jesus is just a prophet. So, right, when we have two cases, if we leave this down to observation, right, one is observing Jesus who's performing miracles, and another is looking at Allah performing miracles. These two can't be true at the same time because one account says, well, he's just a prophet, and another account says, well, he's a God. So,
Now, what about the strength of the accounts? Like what about the consistencies within the internal of I forgot the Quran? Like we have more predicted events within the Bible than we do of like the Islamic faith. And then you're kind of proposing an idea where it's like, well, it's either you disprove this thing, otherwise you aren't able to update your degree of justification to view. That doesn't seem to follow because the argument here is just, well, we see that there's certain events that are expected under X. I'm not necessarily making the claim that this was specifically
oh,
talking about
wait,
Jesus. I'm
just
making
one
the claim that
clarifying question. What God are
this
you arguing
specific
for?
event, this specific event is predicted to occur under this. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I know
like
what you're saying. Wait. So what God are
Tacitus,
you
different
arguing
people
for?
talking about him being annihilated.
Yeah, wait. Hold up. I understand actually 100% what you're saying. So what God are you arguing for then?
Oh, okay. Well, I would normally, well, I'm Christian. So,
Well then, yeah, aesthetic deism has just as much explanatory power. And then
but you said,
those
no,
two
no, no.
things can't be true at the
No,
same
the
time.
argument, wait, hold on, that doesn't matter. We're comparing the strength of the hypothesis of atheism versus theism.
Yeah,
But
and my contention is right. But the point of my contention is that once you leave like
that's non
observation
sequitur.
right, hold on, wait. My claim is once you leave observation, what's observable, right? then you fall into speculation. And then your counter to that was, well, if that's the case, people observe gods. And I'm like, well, yeah, that is true, but people observe many gods, gods that are that have to be
And
contradictory in
there,
nature,
I'm
as
saying
I
there. Wait,
explained.
well, I'm saying
So,
that
like, for
those
example, wait,
people
hold on.
who
Just
wait, hold, you're not understanding the
like this.
argument here.
Hold on, wait. Hold on. Maybe we can still fight like this. Can Christianity and Islam be true at the same time?
Okay, are you disregarding everything you said before
This is
this?
all I've been saying. This is, oh my God. What
Okay,
do you
if you're
mean?
just okay, because I feel like there was certain stuff that I could have talked about, but if you're fine with me not talking about those things and just engaging with what right here, I'm fine with that. I just want to make that clear because I didn't feel comfortable with you saying those things and then me not going into each of those particular things, understanding what you meant. But if you just want to talk about, do I think there's a contradiction for a law, the fucking Quran and stuff like that to be true and the Bible to be true at the same time? Yes, yes, that's obvious. You know, these two things can't be true at the same time.
There you
Now,
go.
what I'm you
And
now wait,
wait,
listen.
hold up. Wait, I have a
That's
follow-up question.
non sequitur. That doesn't defeat
No,
the
no. I
argument
know it's
about
non sequitur, but that's
justification
not
in
the
the
conclusion.
belief.
Wait. It's actually not a non sequitur because I'm at the conclusion yet. Hold up.
Okay.
Wait. So my follow-up question would be, right, so if they can't be true at the same time and both rely on observation, then
No.
how do you know one has more explanatory power over another?
The argument isn't based off of the argument isn't based off of which things
Or I guess
have more
that's
explanatory. Wait, listen. The argument that I gave didn't mention explanatory power. It talked about
it's a
predicted
prediction.
events under the
Yeah, prediction.
hypothesis, and then me updating my degree of justification in the particular belief, which strengthens my hypothesis as well because it's
So,
accurate with a particular prediction.
but I actually don't think it strengthens your hypothesis because when you say like it strengthens your, are you saying like deductively or inductively? 'Cause I think that's important.
I'm saying in the sense, here,
Because
it's
are
not
you
going to
saying it
be. It's not going to be an
necessarily
inductive.
follows,
It's not going to
or
be an inductive, or it's not going to be an inductive type of claim, right? As I've said, it's more so. It's more so talking about plausibility, and
so?
that's just talking, and that's just references a multitude of things. You know, like quantitative measures of like degrees of belief, justification in belief. It can also be used to raise the probability of an event. Raise the
Yeah,
probability of a particular thing, you know, through testing, etc. You know, similar to like a Bayesianist approach.
yeah,
So what
and
I'm
I
doing here,
actually, yeah, and I actually
listen. You'll have to understand the key distinction. Here
between,
we're gauging a quantitative measure of belief. So when I have X event and we have X hypothesis, sorry, that predicts, let's
yeah,
say,
I know how
let's say it
basically
predicts.
works.
Yeah,
No,
okay, so we
how that
get the
works.
idea here,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah,
I'm
so
just
that's
saying
my
that these events are expected, so I am justified because these are directly
wait,
associated in theory. These
wait,
are
wait, wait,
directly associated in theory.
wait. Hold up. Why
You know,
wouldn't this be expected under atheism?
atheism is a view where God doesn't exist.
Okay, and
Okay, so
why?
God doesn't exist. Okay, so yeah, so God doesn't exist just entails the absence of a supernatural entity. It doesn't posit, it doesn't seem to posit any sort of other entities or expectancy under that. It just posits the idea that God doesn't exist. It doesn't even seem to posit the idea that a universe would come into existence, right?
Yeah, I
It
mean
just posits the
that's
yeah, so
kind of
that's
why.
the hypothesis. Wait, yeah, that's the hypothesis. We're comparing the strength of God existing rather than him not existing, right?
Yeah,
So
but the
what is the
classical
strength?
theist,
Okay, so what is the strength
the
of the
classical
atheist
theist
hypothesis? Because I
line.
can point to multiple things that I'm able to establish and update my degree of certainty about this particular thing. Also strengthening my hypothesis because it's data that's directly predicted by what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
okay, hold
Okay.
on. Right, so you're saying that, I mean, I would agree there that, atheism doesn't really make any predictions, right? But I mean, just because theism makes predictions isn't really anything because anything could make a prediction, right? Like if my shoes go missing, right? Something that could explain my shoes going missing are shoe stealing fairies, right? This explains that. You can literally posit anything to explain any event. So I think just saying, well, my worldview can answer these questions is irrelevant because that's not even going to make your worldview any more true, right? Like I
Well, if
can
I said
conjure
that
up,
there's a
hold on, wait, I
possible
can
explanation
conjure up.
for event Y, and that was the justification method, then
Wait, hold up,
sure. But that's not the argument there.
One
That's just not
more,
relevant to
hold
what
up,
I
and one
said.
more thing. One more
What I
thing
said
is
was
that you're
distinct.
arguing for the classical theist view, right? So when you say
No.
that it suggests your hypothesis, well, yeah, because you said you're arguing for the Christian view. The Christian view is a classical.
Yeah, the Christian. I thought you
Yeah.
said classical as in not subscribing to any particular main God. And I'm talking about Jesus Christ. That's why I said I believe in Jesus Christ. Like I literally brought up references of him and stuff like that in different events that are directly expected and associated in theory with a particular Bible. Like they're directly said to occur around this time. We have evidence that they occurred in direct things. Like that's the prediction. So I'm saying, well, it's predicted here and it happened and we got data so that's expected. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, yeah, all you're saying is that if
We had a
if we
prediction
have a
and it was
box, yeah,
consistent.
yeah, you're saying like imagine we have a box, right? And the box is
Yeah.
2 pounds, right? So just because the box is 2 pounds isn't evidence that there's a rabbit in the box, right? We would have to have other things that lead us to conclusion, right? So like if there was a mouse in the box, then we would
Wait,
expect,
how is it not? Wait, okay, so would you say that
yeah,
rabbits are something that are
hold
okay? So in the scenario, are rabbit? Hold on.
we would
Wait,
generate
you
an
just gave. Wait, I'm trying to give a contention to the example because I think you assumed the conclusion in that. So,
huh?
in the scenario, is a rabbit like? Can a rabbit be 2 pounds?
Yeah, no, obviously, but anything can be
Okay,
two
okay.
pounds.
So, okay, listen. So, in that scenario, you're justified in updating your degree of certainty about a rabbit being in there, as well as updating your degree of certainty about a multitude of other things.
Yeah, but
You're not
as
really pointing to me. Wait, you're not really pointing to me why this isn't expected things to be true. Because in the scenario where the rabbit's there, we would have to have that 2 pounds. So
no,
that's
whoa,
expect.
whoa,
Okay, so
whoa. I don't think
how?
you're even understanding the analogy here, right? We're just
No,
saying that
no,
because there's a
it
fact,
directly
because,
correlates. So
because,
we have things we're pitting. Okay, when we're talking about hypothesis predicting, we're basically putting puzzle pieces together. So I just smoked weed,
yeah,
right?
and I know that's what my like analogy does, right? Like just because like
Yeah,
we have something that's 2 pounds, it's not evidence it's a rabbit. It's evidence that there's something in there that's 2 pounds, right?
it's
So
also
now,
no. Wait,
hold up,
you can give the argument for that
this is
because
what I was trying to
that
finish. Hold
particular
up,
2 pounds
hold
is
on,
directly
I'm not
going to
even
be true in
done.
the scenario where the rabbit's in the box.
Even done.
So
I'm not
how is it
even
not
done.
evidence?
I'm
So what's
not
the
even
symmetry breaker between
done.
the
I'm
X and Y?
explaining to you why
That's
it's not evidence.
circular.
Please
Okay,
stop telling me why it's not while I'm still in the middle of talking, and I'm literally
go
telling
ahead.
you I'm not done talking.
Go ahead.
Right. So, right, if someone were to say, well, I think that, well, because it's 2 pounds, it's evidence of a mouse, right? Because there's some mouses that are 2 pounds. A mouse could be 2 pounds, right? But, right, so then we have two hypotheses, right? So then now we get into, okay, well, what is expected under one, right? So if the mouse hypothesis is expected, then we would find like, a rat hole, or we're found like, mouse
No,
somewhere.
no, no.
What?
We
You're
wouldn't need to find
hold up.
rat holes. A
Hold
rat.
up.
Okay, so a mouse can be in there and just sit there still, and then you
Hold
feel
up.
the 2 pounds
Stop. I need to make
because that's
just
literally what happens. That's literally what happens. If a
no,
2 pound thing
no.
is in the box, you're
Wait,
gonna feel the two
wait,
pounds.
wait. I need
So
to
you
just
have evidence that can. So, oh my God, you have evidence. Oh my God, what do you define as evidence? Because maybe we can talk about that.
evidence
What are you
something
defining as evidence?
that positively suggests a hypothesis.
That's something that suggests a hypothesis.
Something that positively suggests a hypothesis.
When you
Yes.
say positively suggest a hypothesis, what's the distinction between positively suggest a hypothesis and suggest a hypothesis?
Positively suggest a hypothesis, like
And then
like
suggest a
evidence
hypothesis. No,
correlate.
what's the distinction between positively suggesting hypothesis and then what's the name? Subjecting
Well,
hypothesis.
I mean,
Hypothesis. Yeah.
because if you were negatively suggesting hypothesis, then I don't see how you're reaching the hypothesis, right?
Okay,
Hence,
so it's just something. So if something's negatively subject, not okay, something that's not pointing to the hypothesis is going to be the negative. Okay. So look, in the scenario where a rabbit's in there, a 2 pound rabbit sits in there, the nigga
wait, we
is going to
don't
feel
know
two
whether there
pounds in the
is a.
box.
No, you're confused. You're confused. No, stop. Wait, no. Listen, the point of the analogy isn't
What
saying.
is the?
Stop, please, because I don't know how you're not tracking this,
I
right?
think you're
I'm not
confused
saying
on what you're
no.
saying.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, right, we have a box, right? We've never looked inside the box. We just have a box, right? Right.
Okay.
So we have the box, and the box is 2 pounds. Just because the box is 2 pounds is not evidence that there is a rabbit in the box. We need other things to reach that
No,
conclusion.
it does because it's
Hold
expected in the
up!
scenario where
Oh
there's a
my
2 pound
God!
rabbit in
Please
there. So
stop
it does
talking. I'm
suggest the
talking.
idea.
That actually is
It also
annoying as
suggests
fuck.
other things.
Oh my God. Yes, it does suggest other things because there's plenty of other things that are 2 pounds. Like, what are you talking about?
Yes. Okay. So you get it. You
It doesn't
understand that
follow.
it suggests
It
other things. So
doesn't
you're
follow.
justified in upgrading your degree of certainty about this
No,
particular thing.
no. And the fact is that you're not justified in
I'm measuring
anything.
degrees of certainty in
No.
quantitative
Stop.
measure.
Stop.
Like
No.
a value
Point
like
is
one,
that you're
two,
not
3, 4, or zero
justified.
point 0.1,
No,
0.2,
stop. Stop. No.
0.3.
The point of it is that you're not justified in saying anything until you have distinguishable evidence from other hypotheses, right? Because just
Yeah, that's
stop,
no,
please
I
stop
disagree. I
talking.
disagree.
Just because we have
You can
right, I don't even know how you're disagreeing with this. This isn't even controversial, right? And basing
No,
it
I
just
disagree. No, I disagree. I've never heard of that. I don't find
how,
any
okay,
reason
just
to refer that.
track slowly, because
And then I
then
literally explained
this is not
why what I'm
controversial
saying
at all.
follows.
This
If
is
this
literally
thing
not
suggests
controversial at
a
all.
multitude of
I'm
other
actually getting
things
annoyed
and limits
because
out
you can't
other
even
things
listen to
like
word
a
debate.
5-pound rabbit, yeah,
No,
you're definitely
stop.
justified in
No,
belief like it's plausibly a 2-pound rabbit.
Just stop. Listen.
We can conclude after this
Stop.
last
Listen. There's
little
two
shit
people,
that you
right?
do.
Stop. You are not tracking this, right? Right.
I'm
There's one
definitely
person.
tracking.
No, you're not. I'm going to explain
No,
how.
I've
Right?
tracked
No,
everything.
you're not, and I'm going to explain how you're failing to track. Right? You're failing to
Okay.
track because I'm
Okay.
saying, right? There's two people, right? Person.
The big official
I have to
never
break it down
fails
like
to
this, right?
track.
So person A, right? Person A has a box, right? Person A
Uh-huh.
doesn't know what's inside the box, right? But person A, he's weighed the box and he found out that the box was 2 pounds, right? So
Mm.
hold up, person B looks at the box, who
Mm.
he has never looked in before, right? And
Mm-hmm.
says that, well, I think that there's a rabbit in the box. Well, just because, and I asked him, well, how did you reach that conclusion? Well, because the box is 2 pounds. Well, that doesn't follow that because the box is 2 pounds, there's a rabbit in it, because there's plenty of things
Nobody's
that weigh.
saying that because there's two
I'm
pounds,
almost
there's a rabbit in it.
stop cutting me off when I'm in
That's
my
not the
stop,
argument. Okay.
stop cutting me off when I'm in my conclusion, right?
Okay.
So just because,
Oh, you're
right?
concluding. My bad. I'll turn off my mic.
Yes,
Go ahead,
yes,
bro.
I'm in the middle of in the conclusion. Then you
Then
can
I'll
respond.
conclude. Then I'll wait. I'll just say that I'm official and then end the recording.
Well, no, I'm not saying conclude the debate. I'm saying I'm concluding this
No,
point.
because
Then
no,
you
because I don't feel like discussing about this point. So we could either just conclude or we could move on to something else.
wait. Do you even understand the point?
I understand what you said. I feel like I was confident with what I responded with. I understood your point, and I'm confident in concluding or
What
going
was
on
my
to another
point?
point, or we could just move on to like a different thing. You're
What was my
basically
point?
saying that you're not justified in updating your degree of certainty about X event, even though we have
No, not updating.
expected evidence of X event being there, because it's indistinguishable from other particular events. And I said, I
It's
don't care if
not.
it's indistinguishable from other events; it's still expected to be true under
Wait,
X, and it has to be true for X to be there. So it is evidence that suggests a particular
I'm about
thing.
to put
So
your
that
in
is
the
accurate
ground.
and consistent with the prediction was my response, and
Literally
that's how
what
we
you're
update the
trying
strength
to
of the
say.
hypothesis.
Like that is one what my argument is saying, and let me explain how. Right? Because I'm
So I
literally
understand what you're saying. So I am tracking.
okay.
Ah,
Okay,
ah.
wait. But you're saying you disagree, though, dumbass.
Yeah.
Wait. So hold up. So now we have to find out what exactly you disagree with. So, right, are you disagreeing with the notion that if I have a 2 pound box, right, if I have a 2 pound box, then that is evidence that there's a rabbit in the box? You think this logically follows?
I'm saying under the scenario where there's a 2-pound rabbit in there,
But
right?
no,
We would
there's
have
not a
to have.
2 pound.
Oh my
No,
God!
you're not
Listen,
tracking
listen,
because
listen,
I'm
listen,
literally saying
listen,
there's
listen.
not a
Oh
two
my
pound.
God!
No, you're actually
Do you want
not
to
tracking
conclude?
because again, for the fifth time
You're not
again. I'm
okay.
saying that there's just 2 pounds. I'm not saying there is in fact a rabbit in the box.
I'm
I'm saying
not.
right.
That
Stop,
doesn't
stop,
matter.
because you
That
failed to
doesn't
track this
matter. I
five
understand
times
your
now, right?
example.
So I have to
I
break this
understand
down
your example.
fundamentally again, right? And then after this, then sure we can conclude after this point. But I'm gonna break this down for you again
Okay.
to prove that you're not tracking, right?
Okay.
I'm saying that person A is just has a 2 pound box. I'm not
Okay.
saying that the 2 pounds is in fact a rabbit. What I am saying is that
I know
person
you're not
B.
saying that.
No,
Nobody's
no,
saying
that's
that.
what you just said. Stop! Don't say that's
No,
not what
that's
you
not
said.
what I said.
That's verbatim what
It's
you
on
just said. I
recording.
swear.
That's not what I said.
Yes, exactly. It is on recording. You saying that I said that if there is a that there's a box with a 2 pound rabbit. right? You started off the sentence with if there's a box with a 2-pound rabbit, even though what I'm saying is that there's just a 2-pound box. So you're not tracking, right? What I'm saying is that person B comes along in the conversation and assumes and says, well, because it's 2 pounds, there's a rabbit in the box. So then person A would refute that with, well, that doesn't follow because there's so many other things that are 2 pounds. So just like how you just said, there has to be the things that are distinguishable from the hypothesis. There isn't nothing distinguishable because the only thing we fucking have is that it's fucking 2 pounds. So when you fucking say, well, this 2 pounds is evidence that it's a rabbit. No, it's fucking not. Because there's plenty of other things that are 2 fucking pounds.
Refute the argument. In the 2 pounds, if you were trying to index this somehow to God in some weird like attempt to hide the argument, even then that data isn't predicted under hypothesis
all I'm
of God
saying
or
is
whatever.
that you can literally say
atheism, sorry, isn't predicted under
hypothesis. My general argument is that you can say,
I know what the argument. Can you conclude, please? I just want to play Mortal Kombat at this point.
The argument if you fail 5 times to track it, and I just had to repeat
I understand the argument
6 times, and I've
Are you fine with concluding?
break it down to you.
Are you fine? You didn't.
Yes, I did. That's on recording. That's actually
it's on recording.
Do
you want to get it on YouTube? Do you want to put it on YouTube?
Please.
Do you want to put it on YouTube? Wait, so do you want to put it on YouTube?
You can definitely listen. You can definitely put this on YouTube.
Okay, okay. And I'll send it to you so you can show all your friends. Okay.
Look good in this.
We will stand tall, face it all.
It was a wonderful conversation, man. All right, so
right, because you said,
yo,
I'm saying,
I'm official.
If there's a box with a 2-pound rabbit, did you or did you not say that?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Oh, damn, I need
to exclamation point save, not slash save.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Basically, I'm official.